I'd like to talk a little bit today about when our adolescents get angry with us when we're trying to be supportive and help them with their health, their safety, and their sleep choices. And these are really important things for us to consider because we know that in amongst the intensity of the adolescent journey and the many, many changes that are taking place in their inner and outer life, it can be really hard for them to notice that their daily decision making affects how they function, how they look, and how they feel. So, for teens who are bothered by headaches and pimples and food sensitivity or insomnia or allergies, for example, they may not connect that their lack of compliance with their treatment regime to their lack of improvement. So, staying up all night before a sporting grand final may not be seen as problematic to them because remember, this prefrontal cortex is yet to mature. Many adolescents lament their body shape, their acne, their stress, and their exhaustion, but they don't let themselves get enough downtime or sleep or exercise or even hydration and healthy food or simply good self-care. So we have to guide our young people to support them to make thoughtful choices that achieve and receive desirable outcomes to avoid poor choices and the unwanted outcomes that go along with them. So remember, we're not here to control our teens, but we are here to support them and to protect their well-being and to help them develop an aptitude for self-reflection and sound decision making. One of the greatest challenges when it comes to helping our teens to become wise and self-caring is that young people often perceive our input as critical, invalidating, nagging, or even annoying. And when adolescents feel picked on, they become emotionally overwhelmed and lose their self-control. And when this happens, they tend to retaliate verbally. Remember, emotional fragility is at an all-time high in adolescence, and learning to deliver important messages skillfully and tactfully will support both of you to communicate more effectively about health and safety choices. So my cat is sitting on my lap, purring here as we're having our little chat. So if you're wondering what that noise is, it's just Bell Bell sitting on my lap. Let's think of the tips that might help us to deliver messages that will land well with your young person. We want to limit commentary. The message that you give your teen will connect with them more strongly if they are offered less frequently. So before speaking, take a moment to question if the issue is significant enough to comment on. When we comment too much or too often, our adolescent quickly develops the ability to filter out our noise and close their ears to the messages we give them. Go in for every possible fight and they will shut you out, but pick your battles wisely and they'll keep an open ear. I always say keep input short and to the point. Messages are more likely to be heard and to be understood when we keep our comments brief and to the point. Remember to communicate with emotional neutrality, acceptance, and a warm and supportive tone. Adolescents who perceive judgment and disapproval will tend to close down and filter us parents out. We want to make observations. So I love statements such as, it seems like, whatever it might be, or I've noticed, or I'm wondering if, or you seem, or I've read and I've heard, blah, blah, blah. These statements are free of blame or emotional intensity, and so they're less likely to activate your adolescent's filter. Approaching conversations with a spirit of collaboration and consultation will allow your teen to feel safe and respected and therefore to open up and listen to you. Keep in mind the universal principle that when people feel supported, they're more likely to open up and act in ways that will please the person they're in relationship with. We really need to be cautious about comparisons because they're incredibly unhelpful and generally torture us rather than helping us. So remember, there are a wide variety of adolescents and parents out there. Comparisons are based on superficial observation and limited information. What appears enviable from afar, in all likelihood is actually quite complicated and not particularly desirable up close. And likewise, those who appear dysfunctional may have strengths that are not obvious to us. Convincing and sort of, I guess, look at Facebook posts about the perfect kids or happy families. It's never a full story. And chances are the people who appear to be living the ideal life are suffering in ways we can't fathom. When you're overcome with a sting of comparison, a Buddhist mindset of compassion for human suffering can be really, really helpful. And remember, we're all suffering in one way or another, and this is a unifying, innately human experience. I want to say something about sleep, because sleep for adolescents is so critical, and adolescent sleep cycles undergo changes due to their developmental shifting that's occurring in their brains. And as such, the sleepy chemical melatonin is released up to 2 hours later than in our preteen or adult brains. So this is nuts, right? This change in the circadian system affects their natural waking times as melatonin continues to be excreted when young people are starting their day. So, although teenagers can survive on minimal sleep, the research shows that in order to develop optimally and to thrive mentally and physically, they actually need 9.25 hours of sleep. Now, I can say with quite a lot of confidence here that many Australian children are sleep deprived. And certainly I work really hard with my adolescent young women to make sure that they're getting enough sleep. Because when adolescents don't get enough sleep, their moody, their memory, their learning, their growth, and their emotional control are all adversely affected. When your teen erupts emotionally, it may well just be the consequence of sleep deprivation. Despite the biological changes of adolescence, it's possible to support our young person to get a good night's sleep. And one of the best ways you can do this is by setting a house policy of turning off screens an hour before bed where you can. Don't fight it, but really try to aim for that, and encourage sleep-inducing activities that are fun, such as a warm bath, a sleepy tea, and avoiding high-energy activities and caffeine or sugar before bed. I often gate crash my children's rooms at this sort of time, and we sit and we have lovely chats and conversation and laugh our heads off, and suddenly it's getting late and we giggle that, oh my gosh, it's bedtime. It's really important that we involve our teen and decide collaboratively on a reasonable bedtime. And you can do this by simply saying, I've noticed that the research kind of says 9 hours of sleep is crucial for teenagers' health. In light of that, what time would be good to start your bedtime routine? And then support your young person's ideas. For example, say, yeah, great idea. Let's make sure that bath of yours is around 8 o'clock so you can start relaxing for bed. By drawing them into these conversations, they want to follow through because it's their decision. It's their choice. So there's some examples that we maybe should go through to help you talk personally with your young person about their health and safety. So if we want to talk about grades, because parents ask me all the time about kids and their grades and the fact that they're not applying themselves or they're overdoing it. When you notice that your teen is avoiding their study for an extended period of time, you could actually say, I'm aware that your exams are coming up, and I'm wondering if getting good grades is not important to you at the moment. Or I've noticed that you're not spending much time studying at the moment, and I'm aware the exams are coming up, and I wonder if avoiding your studies might make you more stressed out. Such comments don't require an answer. And if you're able to say this in a non-critical and very compassionate manner, a young person will be open to what's been said and will be more likely to reflect on it. With bad allergies, headaches, and eating and drinking habits, this is a big one for many families. Certainly, my youngest daughter's going through her trial HSC at the moment, and we're struggling with headaches. And you could say something like, I'm sorry that you've got a bad headache, darling, and I've noticed you're not drinking much water lately and that you keep forgetting to take your lunch to school. I wonder if this has something to do with how you're feeling right now. Or when it comes to getting enough sleep, when you see your young person exhausted and dragging themselves through the front door after school, you might say, "Sweetheart, you seem exhausted today. I can see you're really struggling, and I wonder how many hours sleep you got last night." By wondering aloud about possible connections, your teen is less likely to feel confronted, and you're not requiring any answer from them. It's about allowing them to consider possible connections between their behaviour and their well-being on their own, instead of putting them in situations where they feel the instinctive need to defend themselves against against criticism that they're perceiving is coming from us. The other thing I love to do for young people is really acknowledge their good choices. It is just as important, if not more so, to acknowledge good choices. So, for example, you might say, "I was so proud to hear you tell your friends to wear their bike helmets as you left the house this morning." Or, let me think of another one. "Well done on your great decision to get in the car when you realised your friends had been drinking." You can also comment on what you've noticed other young people doing, such as, "Wow, James is on fire today on the soccer field. His mum was telling me how conscious he's being about healthy eating and drinking plenty of water." All young people need to feel acknowledged, and by acknowledging good choices and the favourable outcomes of such choices, young people are able to form the connection between optimal behaviour and optimal results. My clock's just telling me that it's hit 5 o'clock. I hope that this information resonates for you and that you feel a little more confident to manage when your adolescent gets angry with you, when you're trying to be supportive and help them with their health, safety and sleep choices. I wish you well on this parenting journey, and thank you for following, liking and commenting on this video.